When my mother was pregnant with me, my parents took headphones playing Mahler and held them against her belly. They read "Look Homeward, Angel" to me, hoping that somehow those words would sink in while I was in utero. And when I came out, they started reading to me. They read me everything. They read me Proust. They read me Shakespeare. They read me Hemingway. They read me Nietzsche.
Oh dear.
So it is perhaps no surprise that when I tell you that I was raised in a household that loved words. As soon as I was able to read myself, we took to reading to each other. And we would read each other anything. My parents read me book after book after book, and I read what I could. At first I just read them my primers, pop on pop. But soon enough I was reading them more complex matter. And the rule in our household was I could read anything that I could reach on the bookshelves. So when I was this tall, I could reach things that were here. When I was this tall, I could reach things that were here. But I was a clever girl and knew how to drag a chair over, so I could climb up the shelves. By the time I was 10, I had read all of Shakespeare's plays. And I don't know if I did that to impress my parents or because I loved the language. Honestly, I don't know that it matters. What I do know is that I at least thought I had read all of Shakespeare's plays, not knowing that one was missing. They all were there, lined up so beautifully in their blue binding. We had the Yale Shakespeare set. But Merchant of Venice wasn't there. They pulled that one out and hidden it someplace. Now, as I grew older, we began to stop reading to one another. The beautiful words that we shared from the beautiful written words we shared soon became words of strife and anger. And there was more and more contention in the household. I would be punished, and I would be sent to bed. My books were taken out of my room as a punishment. By the time I was in high school, I wouldn't read Shakespeare if it would have killed me. My teachers made me, but apart from that, I wouldn't read anything that I thought would bring my parents any joy. This was my rebellion. I read science fiction instead. I left the house as soon as I could. And when I was in college, I again took courses on Shakespeare and began to rediscover the love of language for myself and realized that there was one play I hadn't read, so I sat down and devoured The Merchant of Venice. And as I read it, I was at once thrilled because Portia is amazing and mortified. How could Shakespeare think this of Jews? I am a Jew. My family, we're all Jews, but I was raised in a secular household. To my parents, being Jewish meant three things. One, you love language and books. Two, 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. And three, when my parents were watching television, they would look at someone and say, "You think he's Jewish?" So that was all that I knew about being a Jew. So when I read Merchant of Venice and read these horrible things, I was lucky. I'd never really been exposed to anti-Semitism before. I didn't know what to think. This language that I was beginning to fall in love with for my own sake was suddenly tainted. Well, things with my parents remained difficult. Unfortunately, it wasn't one of those situations of just adolescent strife. It was that, frankly, my father and I are probably too much alike for our own good. And I remember when I was in my late 20s, my father phoned me, and we were talking about something, and the words began to grow angrier and angrier, until finally we were screaming at each other, and he said, "I can't believe that you are my daughter. You are no daughter of mine." And he hung up the phone. And all I could think was, I am a Jew. Hath not a Jew eyes? Hath not a Jew hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions? Fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Christian is? If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? Because for so long, that had been the language in our household, a language of revenge. If you do this, then I'll do that. But as I thought about these words, I thought, no, enough. No more getting back. And I began to try and at least contain my rage. Let me tell you, it didn't work. It never works when you first try it. But time passed. And not too long ago, my parents came up to visit. Those of you who have not yet had this experience, I guarantee you will. When I let my parents into my home, it had changed. No longer were they the towering figures of my childhood. Now they were old, shrunken, gray. They didn't need my rancor. They needed my kindness, my affection. As I held my father's arm to help him up the stairs, I could feel the frailty where once I had felt nothing but strength. When we sat and talked, it was so easy to set aside all of the anger, all of the search for justice. And so all I could think is that the quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. 'Tis mightiest in the mightiest. It becomes the throned it becomes the throned monarch better than his crown. His scepter shows the force of temporal power, the attribute to awe and majesty, wherein doth sit the dread and fear of kings. But mercy is above this sceptred sway. It is enthroned in the hearts of kings. It is an attribute to God himself. And earthly power doth then show like as God's when mercy seasons justice. Therefore, Jew, though justice be thy plea, consider this, that in the course of justice, none of us should see salvation. We do pray for mercy. And that same prayer doth teach us all to render deeds of mercy. As I sat there beside my father on the sofa, and we talked back and forth of the books we had read, the words we had loved, I thought that perhaps in hiding The Merchant of Venice from me when I was a little girl, out of fear of how it would scar me, they had instead done me a tremendous favor by leaving it for me when I needed it most.